Hi guys, in this video we're going to be looking at a mock test from Warwick Driving Test Centre. As we come out of the test centre, you'll notice we're in the car park outside the gates. Keep in mind you shouldn't be in the test centre grounds unless you're actually attending your driving test. At the end of the road we're going to turn right onto Wedgeknock Lane, and as I've mentioned in some of my other videos, this is a 40-mile-an-hour road, so keep that in mind when you come out of the test centre, that you're entering a 40-mile-an-hour road, so it's important to get that speed up if it's safe to do so. Looking ahead, you'll see a change to 30 mile an hour and a bend as we go up the hill. This is a really common place for examiners to ask you to pull over. It's to do the hill start, and if you do that, just make sure you give people plenty of time with your indicators, that you check in your mirrors, and that when you pull away again, you check in your blind spot before you move off. Coming up through the estate, there's quite a few bends, there's quite a few side roads, it's very hilly as well, so you'll have to be very mindful of your speed. Make sure you're not creeping up over the speed limit as you come down any hills, and just bring your speed down a little bit and cover your mirrors when you see any junctions or bends that restrict your view. You'll notice along this road, just to remind you of that, there is the word slow written on the road repeatedly. And whenever you see slow, a good acronym to remember is speed, low, observe, warning. If you can keep that in mind, it's telling you to slow down and just look around and be mindful of things like the pedestrian crossing we've just passed, like the brow of a hill where you can't see what's coming the other way, and the potential for parked cars or oncoming vehicles is out of sight. Or junctions where there could be someone waiting to pull out or already in the process of pulling out as you come around a bend or over a hill. So anytime you see that slow marking, check your mirrors and ease off the power, give yourself a bit more thinking time. Sometimes you'll also have warning signs telling you that there's junctions coming up. Again, it's the same thing. The examiners want to see you respond to that information, that warning, by covering your mirrors and just easing off a little bit to make sure that it's safe before you carry on past that hazard. This warning sign on the left is telling us there's a junction on the left that we need to watch out for. However, this is one of those really unusual circumstances where the sign has been hit and is facing the wrong way. There's no way you would know that when you're approaching, so you still respond to it as if that warning applies to you. As we come around this next bend, we're going to come up to a roundabout where we'll be turning right third exit. As we approach this, of course, you should be covering your mirrors, putting your right signal on, and then bringing the car into the right hand position. You can see that done really well by this pupil here, bringing the car to a stop to make sure it's safe to let the people pass before emerging into that roundabout. Remember, those vehicles coming around have priority over you, and you've got to give way to them. As we pass the second exit, mirrors and signal left and bring the car away into your exit road. Now looking up into that new road, you can already see there is a Pelican crossing. We've got a bus stop on the left, so you want to make sure there's nothing already pulling out of that. And then you've got the petrol garage where you'll get cars turning in and out of the driveways there. Just be mindful when you come into a new road that you need to be looking up into that road before you enter it. You've got to keep your eyes ahead of the car and into that new road, because if you don't do that, if you're too busy looking at the nose of your car or in the mirrors, you're going to get caught out by something that should be obvious because it's in front of you. Now this is especially true when you're making sharp turns. We're going to be taking a right turn here, mirrors, signal, and positioning in that filter lane. See the zebra crossing, you'd need to turn your head before you're turning the wheel, because if you turn the wheel before you turn your head, you're committing to entering that road before you've actually looked up and checked that it's clear. And of course, if that zebra crossing is not clear, you're going to get caught out. It's going to cost you your driving test. Coming through this housing estate, quite a few bends. It does get quite narrow at points, so you can see the speed being held quite low here by this pupil. And that's a really good example of how to approach bends like that. As well as this, you want to be on your mirrors frequently. This is something I can't stress enough to pupils. Keep those eyes moving, because that's going to really help improve your awareness. It's going to show the examiner you know what's going on around you all the time, and it's going to help you plan and drive more smoothly and more safely. Not just for your driving test, but afterwards, because that's what you're aiming for, is to drive after your test. It's not all about the driving test itself. This section of road with the bends as well, particularly tight, and it is a bus route as well, so you want to be mindful of buses coming around there. Sometimes they do come around quite quickly, so you want to carry a low speed. And up ahead, we've got speed ramps, we've got zebra crossings. Where the parked cars are, again, it does get a little bit narrow. You can fit quite comfortably with another car coming through these sections of road. If you're not sure, of course, you can hold back. But if you're faced with a large vehicle coming the other way, it's probably best to find a gap and let them pass before you carry on down this section of road. Where there's no parked cars, of course, you can lean in and keep moving. But where you've got those parked cars, you don't want to be meeting a large vehicle at that point. With these kind of speed ramp, what I see people do a lot of the time is try to line up with the ramp itself so the car goes over more evenly, so you don't get that left and right rocking motion as you go over it. Now, more important than that is getting your speed down, so if you don't line the car up correctly, that rocking motion isn't going to be too uncomfortable. It's more important to get your speed down than it is to get the car central on that ramp, so prioritize your speed when you're approaching speed ramps. End of the road left, and then we'll be taking the first road on the right. Nice simple junctions, the same rules apply, just make sure that you're giving way to people who you need to give way to, just like this oncoming car. We're turning right across their path so they get priority. And then, of course, looking up into the turn before you commit, and that way you can see things like the parked cars. If there's anything coming the other way, you can prepare for that before you actually start committing to the turn. That's going to make things smoother. It's going to show the examiner better planning. Just here, I'm going to record a fault for use of mirrors, and this is because the left mirror wasn't checked before moving in around that parked car. Just be really mindful that that is absolutely essential to keep yourself safe. Now, coming down this road, we've got a number of parked cars on both sides. Again, it's really important to keep on those mirrors as you're moving around, and just looking for gaps too where you could hold back if you need to, if anything comes up from the road ahead. Now, that's especially true when you're approaching the bend here. You've got parked cars on both sides, and if you're not ready to hold back, then you're going to get yourself caught out if something does come the other way. Now, you can see down the bottom left of the screen how much the pupil's reduced her speed in order to come around that bend. That is a really good example of how to approach that. Reducing your speed allows you more thinking time and more reaction time if something does come the other way, or there's an obstruction like a car, and that shows the examiner a good level of planning. End of the road, and you can see us line up for a right turn. Now, I've pointed out this on a number of my other videos. The most common reason for people failing the driving test consistently for the last 10 years at least has been observations at junctions. And this is that kind of situation where you come up to the end of a road, you've got to make sure you're ready to stop, and you're giving yourself time to look both ways before you get to that giveaway line. Now, if you approach a junction like this too quickly, you don't give yourself time to look around and you rush out into the junction, that's what's causing people to get those serious faults and fail their driving tests. So be very mindful when you're coming up to the end of a road that you're going slow enough to stop, giving yourself plenty of time to look around and see it's safe before you commit to crossing that giveaway line. Just up ahead, you can see the direction sign for a roundabout. We're going to be turning right, third exit, and that's signposted Coventry. What we don't want to do approaching this set of lights is put our signals on, however. We do want to check our mirrors and take that right-hand position, though, because we're not turning right at the traffic lights, we're turning at the roundabout. So we've got to go straight through the lights in that right-hand position, ready for the roundabout. If you find yourself in the left lane, check your mirrors, signal, and bring yourself over if it's safe. And if it's not safe, just go straight ahead. The examiners are not going to mark you for going the wrong way, but they will mark you for changing lane unsafely or using the wrong lane to make a turn at a junction. As you go around the roundabout, just be mindful of your signals because they will cancel as you straighten up the wheel there, and be careful not to signal too soon as you come round to switch that left lane. I'm going to record a driver fault there because I felt that this pupil did signal a little bit soon. That could mislead anyone behind into thinking she's leaving the roundabout. Also be mindful of these traffic lights, very easy to get caught out by them as you come round the bend. As we're leaving the roundabout, you'll want to be checking your right mirror as well for anyone who might try to overtake you before entering the slip road. And then, of course, if it's safe, start building your speed. As you're coming closer to the main road, the dual carriageway, you want to be checking your right mirror, putting your right signal on, and not forgetting to check that blind spot before you merge. If it's safe, bring the car over, get all four wheels into lane one, and then cancel your signal. Now, early observations and adapting your speed to line up with the gap is going to prevent you from having any problems with merging. A lot of people get very nervous when they're coming down the slip roads to merge onto the A46, and the same applies when you're doing motorways as well after you've passed your test, or if you do pass plus. But as I say, early planning, early observations, and getting yourself lined up with the gap is going to prevent all of the problems that you could encounter. Once you're on the dual carriageway, you've got more than one lane. The ideal is to stay in the left-hand lane unless you're overtaking or unless signs or markings tell you to use a different lane. Now, that could be the case if you're following road signs or if the Sat Nav has told you to use a different lane as you pass through that section of road. You can see here there's no signs telling us about that, so you're just going to stick in the left lane unless you're overtaking. If it's safe to do so, the examiners will expect you to get up to 65, 70 mile an hour along roads like this. You've got to adapt that to the conditions, of course, so if it's raining, if the visibility is poor, or if there's loads of traffic, then you may travel a little bit slower. Now, in the case of my pupil here, we're traveling at 55 to 60 mile an hour, which this comes down to the type of vehicle that I'm using. So I use a van-derived car, which basically means that it's a van with seats and windows. Now, that being the case, I'm only allowed to do 60 mile an hour on A roads like this, so this is why we're sitting at 55 to 60 mile an hour. As you can see though, she's maintaining the speed really well. What you can't see is the regular mirror checks. If you're keeping an eye on the mirrors, then you can see what's catching up with you from behind, and you can be prepared for things overtaking you. If you're not looking, however, then something coming past you quite quickly could catch you off guard. It's going to spike your stress levels and your anxiety, and that's going to put you at more risk of making mistakes. So keep yourself aware and you won't get caught off guard by those kind of things. This next section of road, you'll see the left lane joins in, but it doesn't merge into the two lanes that we're already in. Now, in these circumstances, what you should do is check your left mirror and move to the left side, not forgetting to signal, of course, before you do so. The examiners will give you a reasonable amount of time to make that decision, but if you don't move into that left-hand lane, the examiner will record a serious fault for your normal driving position, and that, of course, will cost you your driving test. It's also known as lane hogging, which is a driving offence. So if you're sat in that middle lane unnecessarily and it causes disruption to the flow of traffic behind you, and people have to start passing you on the left, you could get yourself pulled over and fined. So be very mindful of your positioning. Make sure you move into that left lane if it's available and if it's suitable for where you're headed. We've just passed a sign telling us half a mile to the exit for Leamington, and that's the exit we're going to be taking. As we get closer, you can see the markers 3, 2, and 1. This is where you want to be putting your left signal on, checking your mirrors again, but not slowing down. You don't want to slow down until you cross that line into the slip road, unless, of course, you have to. If there's a queue of cars coming down, you don't want to hit that at 60 mile an hour. You want to slow down and join the queue sensibly. We're taking up the right-hand position because we're going right at the roundabout, third exit, and that is signposted Leamington as well. As we approach it, you can see the change in speed limit. You can also see this red X at the bottom with end. Now that's telling you it's the end of a no stopping zone. So the A46 is a road where no stopping applies. Now with roads like the A46, that is a bit of common sense, but some roads will have those no stopping signs, and it's not quite so obvious. So just look out for those signs. If you do see that red X with a blue background, that's telling you you cannot stop on that road. As we're going around the top of the roundabout, mirrors and signal left and gently bring the car out to the left side. This puts you in the right position to leave the roundabout. Be mindful as you come around this last curve before your exit that you stay nice and wide, going all the way out to that curb. If you lean in too soon, you could cut into that right-hand lane, and that, of course, could cause problems if there's somebody coming around in that second lane. But as always, good mirror use will make you aware of that, so you'll be able to cover your back if that is the case. Notice how the lanes merged very quickly. That's one of the reasons you want to be on those mirrors frequently as well. Now, those mirror checks should be made whenever there's something changing up ahead of you. We've got lights, we've got the junction on the left. Just after that, we've got quite a tight bend. So this is going to call for you to slow down. So those mirror checks ensure that you're safe before you start reducing your speed. As we come round this bend, you'll see signs for a roundabout. We're going to be going straight ahead, second exit. This one can catch a lot of people out because normally you'd use the left lane to do that. However, we have markings here telling us the left lane is left only. So you're going straight ahead from that right-hand lane. As you come around the curve, be very mindful of your left mirrors because sometimes people will try and come around in that left lane. And as I've mentioned repeatedly in this video, those mirror checks are going to keep you safe. So good awareness of your surroundings is absolutely essential. It's going to show the examiner you know what you're doing. It's going to mean you can respond to things more safely. And you're going to feel more in control anyway and less nervous, which gives you a better shot at passing your test and a better shot at keeping safe afterwards as well. Now, the same is true for when you're looking ahead. What we don't want to be doing, and this is something I did see a lot of my learners doing, is looking down at the tarmac or just staring straight ahead and their eyes are barely moving. We want to be lifting our eyesight, looking as far ahead as you can. You'll spot those road signs easy, or you'll spot what's going on ahead a lot sooner. But also flickering your eyes from mirror to mirror, from left to right, from near to far. Constantly keep those eyes moving and constantly be looking for anything that's going to affect what you're doing in the car in order to keep yourself safe. By spotting things that might affect you earlier, you give yourself more thinking time, it creates less stress and less anxiety, but most importantly, it's going to keep you safe in the long run. So these are good habits to practice from day one, getting those eyes moving. Like I say, left mirror, right mirror, center mirror, left to right, near to far, and just keep those eyes moving constantly like that to cover everything. Just up ahead, we're coming to another roundabout, and at this roundabout, we're going to be going right third exit. As we approach, don't forget the mirrors, the signal to the right, and then taking up that right-hand position, ready to stay close to the roundabout to bring the car past the second exit. As we pass that second exit, left mirror, left signal, and remember to look up at your exit in order to line the car up effectively and plan for anything that might cause you to have to slow down, to have to wait, or change your path. Pedestrians, parked cars, cyclists, anything like that that's in that new road, the sooner you can spot it, the more thinking time you've got, and the more in control you're going to feel, so the less anxious you'll feel when you're doing your test as well. We've got a 50-mile-an-hour zone now, and this is one of those roads that, whilst we've got a 50-mile-an-hour limit, I personally wouldn't want to see anyone doing 50 up here because there's not enough room, there's not enough visibility, there's bends, it gets narrow at points, there's lots of driveways and entrances to fields and such. If you're going to push 50 mile an hour down this road, you're putting yourself at a lot of risk and you're putting other people at a lot of risk as well. So you've got to remember it's essential that you adapt your speed based on the visibility you have and the amount of hazards around you or potential hazards around you. Now, when it comes to rural roads like this, where there doesn't seem to be a lot going on, the risks are actually a lot higher. And even though I think it's around 20% of all road collisions happen on rural roads, over 70% of fatalities happen on roads like this. And a lot of the problems are caused by people traveling too fast for the conditions. Now, that doesn't mean speeding or surpassing the speed limit, it just means too fast for the conditions. So even though this is a 50 road, you might find sections of road that are 50 that you can only do 20 down because they just don't allow you the space or the visibility to go any faster, and that's what leads to the problems on roads like this. So make sure you're slowing down and taking your time and checking those mirrors whenever you've got less space or less visibility. As you can see in this next section of road, it's a lot more built up. So of course the speed limit has dropped down to 30 mile an hour. Now, even though that's the speed limit around here, we don't necessarily want to be traveling at 30 mile an hour. And that's especially the case when you're coming around bends, or as you'll see up ahead, the road gets quite narrow, or there's more activity on the road, like more parked cars or shop fronts, driveways, anything like that. You want to reduce your speed for, just to give yourself more thinking time if that situation changes. Back up to 40 mile an hour. Again, it's not quite appropriate to be doing 40 mile an hour. There's too many bends, there's not enough width to the road. If you get an oncoming vehicle, it's going to be a very, very close pass, so you want to be traveling slower. And remember, we've got slow written on the road repeatedly. It's telling you to slow down. And it's not often you can sit a test where the answers are written right in front of you, but in this case, the answer is written right in front of you. If the road says slow down, slow down. Coming into a 30 zone, you can see we've got a warning for a school. Not really a risk on this one. We're looking at 8:40 in the evening, so the school's all gone by this point. But the speed ramps, of course, they're there 24/7, and some of these are a little bit rough. So you can see this pupil hitting them at 15 mile an hour and below. And that's going to keep the car quite comfortable. You don't want to be hitting them at 20, 25, because it's going to throw you in the examiner about. It's going to feel really uncomfortable, and it's not going to do your suspension and tyres any good, which of course in the long run, when it comes to your own car, hitting speed ramps like that repeatedly is going to cost you in repairs. So take your time when you're coming over speed ramps, and just keep in mind as well, they're not just there to decorate the road or annoy you. They are there for a reason, and if you can't see that reason, it doesn't mean you can ignore that there's a reason. Just up ahead, I'm going to get this pupil to pull over. Now, you'll do this several times during your driving test, and it's just so the examiner can see that you can pick a safe place, pull over safely, and then move away safely again. Now, when it comes to picking a safe place, that should be the first thing you do before you start going through the motions of pulling over. Pick where you're actually going to stop first, then check your mirrors and signal, and then bring the car into a stop. Once you've pulled over, you should secure the car, cancel your signal, and then wait for the examiner to tell you to drive on. And when you drive on, don't forget that blind spot check before you move out. More parked cars up ahead, and again, a reminder about them mirrors. Don't forget the right mirror before you move out around those cars, and the left mirror as you're passing by and before you move in again. You'll also want to be reducing your speed, so if the situation changes, if something comes the other way, for example, you're already prepared for that stop. And of course, that mental preparation is going to help you carry out that action more smoothly and more calmly. And of course, that's going to reduce your stress levels. It's going to reduce the joltiness of the car, and it's going to keep the examiner calm too. And all of that goes in your favor on the driving test. And of course, it's all going to play in your favor afterwards as well, because you've developed good planning skills and habits before you've even got on the road solo. As we come down the hill here, the road bends to the left, and then we've got a set of traffic lights. Now, these traffic lights, we're going to be taking a right turn, so mirrors signal, slowing down for the turn. Don't forget to have a little look around as well, because even though the lights are in our favor, you will have occasions where vehicles will come through the red light that opposes you, and spotting that nice and early is going to help you keep in control and keep safe. Whereas if you just breeze through those green lights and assume it's clear and it isn't, then even though it's not your fault, you're going to get yourself into a collision or a very stressful near miss. So do have a look around, even if the lights are in your favor. This section of road does get a little bit narrow with the parked cars on both sides. Good mirror use, a reduced speed, and just being mindful of what's coming towards you is going to help keep you safe, of course. We've then got a set of traffic lights on the hill here. We've got 2 lanes, so this pupil does a really good job taking the left-hand lane. The hill does catch a lot of people out though, and often it's because people are worrying about the hill start. Now, in this case, the pupil overshot the stop line, ended up in the bike box, and then decided to roll back slightly. So I'm going to record a driver fault there for foot brake control. When you're making your hill start, you've got to make sure you've got enough power to pull the car over the hill, and enough bite from that clutch if you're in a manual car. In an auto, a lot easier, of course. It's all about focusing on pulling the car forward rather than stressing about it going backwards. At the traffic lights, we're going to take a right turn, and you'll notice the filter lane here is separated. Pupil does a nice job of going into the correct section of the filter lane. We've then got a green light, no oncoming cars, so we can go straight across that junction nice and smoothly. Just be mindful of those lights potentially changing. Whenever you're approaching traffic lights, what I tend to advise is cover your foot brake just for a few seconds until you reach the point of no return, the point where you've got to commit or stop. And then, of course, if the lights haven't changed, you can switch over onto that gas pedal and get yourself going again. On this section of road, I've asked the pupil to pull over on the left-hand side. Again, it's just practicing picking a safe place, checking the mirrors and signalling, and pulling over nice and close to the curb. You don't want to be sat too wide from that curb, especially on narrow roads like this, because it's going to affect how easily people can get around you. And of course, if you make things difficult for people without it needing to be difficult, it's going to go against you on your driving test. Now, another reminder, when you move off, you've got to make sure you look over your right shoulder before you move the car. If you move before you've checked that right shoulder, it will go down as a driver fault. If you move off without checking your shoulder at all, that will also go down as driver fault, but it also opens up the risk that if there's something there, you create a serious risk and you've just cost yourself your driving test. So make sure you're remembering those right shoulder checks every time you move away. At the end of this road, we're taking a left turn, and for those who are keen-eyed, you'll have spotted that this is a 20-mile-an-hour zone that we're entering. When you're traveling down roads like this, keep in mind that you want to be checking your mirrors frequently. We're moving out and around cars, so that right mirror needs to be covered every time you're coming up to a car to move out. And of course, the left mirror as you're passing by. And just like this pupil here, keep that speed nice and low. That's especially important on this road because it's quite narrow. As we're coming up to the end of the road, you'll see there's two vans, and you may notice on the right hand side that van has its back doors open. Now, you want to be very mindful when you've got vans with the doors open like that, because if anyone is working around the back of that van, then you are not going to see them as you're approaching, and people do sometimes make the mistake of just walking out before they've checked, and of course you don't want to be caught out by that. So covering your mirrors, covering your brakes, and just being mindful of that risk. End of the road, we're turning left, and you'll notice this very unusual looking vehicle going past. Now, I've never seen anything like this, but as you can see, it is quite small, it's quite quick, and this is why it's really important when you reach the end of a road to make effective observations, because something like that, an e-scooter, an e-bike, they can pick up quite a lot of speed. And of course, they're also a lot smaller, which makes them harder to see. And this is why you need to double check before you're pulling out of junctions. Continuing down the road, we've got a few side roads, a few bends. Just again, be mindful of vehicles coming the other way or approaching those side roads. Keep your eyes moving for anything that's turning into the side roads like that white car just did. And especially on that bend there where it's quite difficult to see them. Coming up to the roundabout, we're going to use the left lane to continue straight ahead. Now, that's the normal position. You can see the pupil sitting nice and wide, keeping close to the curb. Don't forget the mirror checks and signals before you leave. My advice on situations like that as well is check the right mirror, because that's where you could have someone trying to overtake you and get ahead of you. And of course, checking your mirrors is going to reduce the chance of you getting caught off guard by anything overtaking you, but also just having that awareness of the possibility, that already helps you mentally prepare for those risks. And if you're mentally prepared for those risks and you're using your mirrors, it's only going to help you keep safe. As we're coming around the bend, we're going to take the next road on the left. Now, anytime you're approaching roads like this, make sure you're looking up into that road before you fully commit to the turn. Now, by doing that, by putting your eyes into the turn first, you can prepare for anything that's in that road already. And that could be a parked car. It could be someone looking to cross the road. Keep that hierarchy of the highway code in mind there. Or it could be an oncoming vehicle that's coming around a parked car. So anything like that you'll want to be looking out for. At this point, you'll see the pupils pulling up on the right-hand side, and this is to carry out the right reverse maneuver. When you're asked to do this, the examiners will be reasonable at where they ask you to pull over. They'll tell you very clearly to pull up on the right-hand side, and all they want to see is you picking a safe place, checking your mirrors and putting your signals on, and of course being mindful of any oncoming vehicles too. When you're reversing, make sure you're looking over both shoulders frequently, turning your head from left to right and just keeping the vehicle nice and slow. Notice the child running over from the right here. This pupil spotted that their ball had come over and it was near the back of our vehicle. So she's decided to wait for that child to retrieve the ball before continuing. And that is a really sensible thing to do. It demonstrates good awareness to the examiner. It keeps that child out of any risk as well. And doing stuff like that is going to set you on the right path for a pass on your driving test. When you've reversed about 2 car lengths, the examiner will ask you to stop. Then they'll tell you to drive on. Don't forget to check that left blind spot before you pull away, and I always recommend doing a second check as you start turning as well. It's only going to serve to cover your back if something's changed or if you've missed something. So that second check is really going to help you. It shows that examiner the awareness of the risks as well. And that left side in particular is more of a blind spot. You've got a much bigger blind area. You've also got more of the pillars of the vehicle in the way. You've got more seats in the way. So just double checking it, it's not going to do any harm. Taking the next road on the right, we've got plenty of time with the oncoming car being so far away. So no issue with the pupil doing that turn there. And then looking up into this, you can see the zebra crossing, very well illuminated as it's getting darker. Now, as you're approaching zebra crossings, you'll want to be scanning for anyone who is approaching to cross. It's not just about who's already there. When I was learning to drive, my instructor used to use the phrase runners and riders. Now, what he meant by that was basically anyone who's on a push bike, on an e-bike or scooter, or on a mobility scooter, they're going to approach that crossing a lot faster. So, of course, you've got to be more aware of them before they get close to the crossing. Up ahead, we're going to get this pupil to pull up on the left behind the van. This is an angle start. The examiner will ask you to pull up behind a particular vehicle about a car length away, and just like the other stops, mirrors, signal, bring the car into a safe place. And then when it comes to moving on again, mirrors, signal, don't forget your blind spot, and don't forget to look ahead for anything oncoming, because you're going to have to pull out around that vehicle and into the oncoming lane. Pupil did a really nice job of that, covering the blind area. And just like I said with the right reverse, you double check that blind spot as you start steering out, because you're using more of the road to do your maneuver. So it's just going to cover your back and keep you safe in the long run. Just ahead, you can see the oncoming car, and the pupils made a really good decision here with that box van blocking our view. We can't see how many parked cars are behind it, so it's not worth the risk to carry on around those vehicles and hope there's a gap. You want to be absolutely sure. Just as we pass these vehicles, I'm going to get the pupil to pull up on the left again. We're going to do a hill start. Now, whenever you do a hill start, some people feel more comfortable using the handbrake, although it's not entirely necessary. Although it can be really helpful in letting you relax and focus on pulling the vehicle away rather than you worrying about stopping it rolling backwards. And with stuff like this, it's all about putting your mind onto what you want to do, not onto what you don't want to do. If you start worrying about rolling back, you're more likely to make a mistake. Now, if you put your mind on the task of pulling away, it's going to give you better control over the clutch and the accelerator, and that's going to help you pull away more safely, more effectively, and it's going to keep you calmer, which really helps with that control. If you're panicking about rolling backwards, you're more likely to slip off the clutch or over rev, and that's where the problems come in. Just there, I've asked the pupil to demonstrate using the washers and wipers. That's your show me question. I'll put a link for them at the top as well, so you can go and look at some of those to prepare for your test. That brings us to the end of this mock test. If you've been keeping count, you'll know that this pupil's just got 3 driver faults, which would be a pass on your driving test. If you found the video useful, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment, and I'll try and keep the content coming. Thank you for watching. God bless.